How many of you have had someone like that in your life? Someone that just came along, and maybe it was a parent, maybe it was your aunt, maybe it was your brother. Would it be safe to say everyone has had someone in their life that has made a lasting imprint on them? Yes? Anybody not have that? Didn't have anybody? You had nobody in your life. No one's ever made an impression on you. Well, but no, you don't judge it to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that, because basically, everyone has made an impression on you. It's just, was it good? Was it good? Was it constructive? Was it destructive? Everyone has made an impression on you at some point. And my point here today is, do you think it's by accident that this young man was in that classroom with that teacher who took it upon himself to give him his first pair of drumsticks? And this guy is now one of the most sought-after inspirational speakers after having a gigantic career as a drummer, playing on some of the most famous tracks you've ever, you would know a lot of the tracks he's played on and the bands he's been a part of. But now he's an inspirational speaker. He travels the world talking about this concept. So do you think it's by accident? And I'm aware of what I have to talk about today, what I want to talk about today, and crafting it into a talk that is spiritually grounded and emotionally grounded and based in truth has proved throughout the week to be a wonderful journey for me. When I woke up this morning, I called Kevin, and there was also this noise behind him. I was like, where are you? And so it was around 7 o'clock, so maybe 10 o'clock his time. He said, I'm at a church in Philadelphia with Kamala Harris and John Legend. So I just started crying. I was like, you are? He said, yeah. He said, I'm not standing with them, but I'm at this church because I'm part of the team canvassing and doing the work. And I was so moved, and I have been so moved by my husband. We don't always agree. We don't always agree on how things need to be said or how things should be said. I probably use less expletives than he does with all of his friends, as I am on the text links. But he's out there making a difference. He's somebody that impacts me in a big way. Is that by accident? Is it by accident that I ended up in a production of Candide with this young actor named Kevin Bailey? Is that an accident? Was that an accident? Because I shouldn't have even been in that show, to be honest. I had just had sinus operation, and I couldn't sing when the auditions came around, and I literally, my agent said, you got to go. I said, but I'm not a Candide. Candide's kind of curly-haired and geeky. I'm more Maximilian, who's the really handsome other guy. And my agent was like, well, they want to see you for Candide. And I said, all right. So I went in, and you know that for that audition, I actually pulled all the packing out of my nose and was bleeding when I walked into that audition. And I sang something from Pippin, and the director went, is your nose bleeding? I was like, in fact, it is. I said, because I just had terminate. What are they called? Terminates. Whatever they were, they crushed them in there for me. So I just poked it back in. I went, thanks for having me in, and I got the role. I left a major impression on these people. But here's the thing about this. I look back now at all that, and I'm like, that wasn't an accident. There are no accidents. The universe is not an accidental universe. The universe is a very serious universe. And I want to bring up this topic. So there's don't you love that picture? What if he hadn't met that man? What if he had just been given drugs for his OCD? What if he had just been told how wrong he was and had a whole different experience of life? But he didn't. And there's a reason for that. And it's a universal reason. And I want you all to think about this. Even if you are sitting here today, or if you're sitting at home today and listening and thinking, yeah, but my life isn't that good. My life hasn't unfolded like that. I didn't have that teacher who helped me. I would ask you to look at some moment where something did. Because the universe is constantly moving us forward, whether we know it or not. And sometimes we so get in the way that the universe can only move us forward by answering what we're doing, equaling us in our consciousness, and thereby bringing us things that are challenges as opposed to the excitement and the major creativity that could be ours. So there's this thing, I teach it all the time. It's called, it's called emergent evolution. And it says this: new properties such as mind and consciousness appear at certain critical points in the course of evolution. Mind and consciousness only appeared when the universe had grown to that moment where man needed a mind, where man needed the conscious use of mind to navigate better. At one point, we were nothing but blobs of bacteria and cells. But the universe constantly emerges and grows and expands and gets better. Do you know that we had 6 toes at one point? Some people, I think, still do. We don't need 6 toes. So we stopped growing a toe, emergent evolution. There are organs in our body that someday the scientists are saying you will not have those organs because they're really not necessary anymore. That's emergent evolution. The universe knows what it is doing. You are the universe. Therefore, there's something in you that knows what you're doing. So the title of my talk today is this: The Persistent Universe. Because the universe is constantly moving forward. And so are you. You just have to, as we said earlier, you have to have that as your AEP. You have to absolutely know that no matter what is going on, you are in the perfect place at the perfect time, surrounded by the perfect people, even if it's just the perfect people to teach you a lesson to get you away from those perfect people. Anybody have that lesson in their life ever? Yeah. So, the persistent universe. So let's look at what that means. Persistent. Continuing firmly or obstinately in a course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition. So that's the universe. It continues. It doesn't care how obstinate you are. It doesn't care how much you keep telling it, this is a terrible world, this is a terrible universe. It's not getting offended. The universe isn't saying, Tiffany really thinks I'm a piece of crap. I hate that. And then get back at her for it. No, that's not how it works. The universe is just constantly moving forward, evolving, expanding. Even if it looks like a big pile of poo-poo. That's my spiritual word for the day. So, Confucius said this: it does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. So there are many of you here who are talking about, life's gotten very slow, I'm not getting things accomplished, I'm not getting where I want to be. How many times have you heard yourself saying, I'm just not where I want to be in life, right? So, but you are, Blanche. You're exactly where you put yourself in life. And the universe is right there, just ready and waiting for you to say, take me. Just take me along. Bring me along. So, when I call this thing the persistent universe, I have to be open to that. I have to be willing, absolutely willing, to let the universe do what it's going to do. We are living in very interesting times. Very interesting times. Yesterday, we did our event here, the Hoedown, and Scott Anderson, who many of you know, he's the amazing man who on vacation stumbled into Casa Guatemala, and ever since then has been just the forerunner of taking us to Guatemala. Those of us who have gone, raising money every year and making a huge difference in these kids' lives. And that's just something he does because he ran into Casa Guatemala one day on a speedboat. Well, yesterday he picked me up to bring me here, and I got in the car with him, and he said, have you ever been in a smart car? I said, no, what do you mean? He said, well, the car's going to drive us to Westlake. I don't even have to drive it. I was like, yeah, that's not happening. I was like, I'm not really comfortable. I have goosebumps just telling you this story. I said, can't you drive it yourself? And can you turn that off and drive it yourself? He went, yeah, but don't you want to experience the car driving us to Westlake? I was like, no. I said, what if it fails? He says, well, what if a person fails? A person's probably going to fail more than a machine's going to fail. And so, and in my head, I'm like, there's part of me going, no, no. And there's another part of me saying, James, this is the future. The future is right in front of you. You're in the future. Actually, you're in the present. But so I said, all right. So Scott gets in, he turns it on. He says, well, I have to get out of your driveway for wherever he was. He says, because it doesn't really do driveways. It just gets you where you're going, and then it lets you park it. I was like, well, I guess there's more to know. So all of a sudden, we go. And I'm like holding on to, and Scott's like, and he's talking. He said, I said, but don't you have to pay attention? He goes, I'm paying attention. He says, no, I'm paying attention. He said, in fact, if I were to lean down and look at my phone, a noise will come on and say, please pay attention. And he showed me, watch. And it goes, please pay attention. It was hysterical. And now we're on the freeway. I was like, don't you want to take it off when we get on the freeway? He goes, no, the freeway's great. It's changing lanes, and then it's slowing down. It was, I had an ulcer by the time I got to two-stepping. But I thought to myself, I was like, so if this is the future, and if I'm going to give this talk on the persistent universe, and if I'm going to talk about how the universe always is moving forward, that smart car is part of moving forward. That smartphone, how many of you are using a smartphone? Every one of us in this room is using a smartphone. Does anybody still have a flip phone? No. Ann, you don't have a flip phone, do you? No, you have a smartphone. Yeah, I mean those old flip phones. Remember when the first phone came out and it was like a phone booth and you just carried it around with you in a briefcase? I remember those. Anyway, so this car. And then we drove home. And I said, is it going to drive us home too? And it was funny, when we got to my house, it didn't know what to do, and it was like spurting. Because Scott pressed the turn signal, and it went in a wrong lane and like freaked out. I was like, well, that's good to know that if it's going in the wrong lane, it's going to freak out to let me know we're about to crash. But it was for me, it was like, you teach this. You teach emergent evolution. You teach the quantum field. You teach going where no one has ever gone before. You teach all of this, and then a smart car comes along, and you have a nervous breakdown. So what's it going to be, James? Is your AEP, life is unfolding perfectly at all times, no matter what, or life is unfolding perfectly when I say so? Because how many of you have that one? Life is unfolding perfectly when I say so. Yeah, no, that's not going to be it. So I never give up when it comes to questioning myself. I'm always, always in the hot seat, asking myself, are you still living this? Are you teaching this? Do you know what you're teaching? Are you living what you're teaching? Do you get up and live what you say on Sundays? I love this. I thought I'd do this for the Dodgers. Babe Ruth. I know he's not. Yeah. Yeah, you just can't beat the person who never gives up. So I'm here today to ask us all to stop giving up, because I'm getting a sense that there are people giving up. This week alone, I wrote them down. This week alone, I've been told I'm no longer sleeping at night. I've been told I am worried this country is going to shut down. I've been told we will never be the same again after this election. And I've been told I'm afraid for my children and my grandchildren. And many other things from people about the election that we are all a part of right now. And yet, I teach the emergent universe. That the universe, the persistent universe, knows exactly what it's doing at all times, no matter what. And that the universe will constantly do exactly what is necessary for the time at hand. Does that mean that Kevin doesn't fly off to Philly and canvass the streets of Philadelphia? No, it does not. Does it mean that I won't get out and do everything I can do to get what I believe is the right choice for this country in the White House? Yes, I will. And so will those that believe someone else is the right choice for the White House. And my job is to believe that whoever wins this election is life unfolding perfectly no matter what. Now, I know many of you sitting here and many of you at home, and my husband certainly would have a hard time with this, has a hard time with that. But I asked Gary and Pam this question for a reason. Could you now take everything you know and go back and live your life differently? And their answer was unequivocally yes. So why can't we live our lives now with what we know? You don't have to stay awake at night worrying. Let the universe do that. And it's not, by the way. You don't have to worry if your children and your grandchildren are going to be okay, so long as you do everything in your power to make sure that you follow your heart. But still know that the AEP is, in this persistent universe, it is constantly doing what it needs to do. People ask me all the time, why is it so easy for you? Why? As if it's always that easy for me. I have the same struggles. I really do. And there are moments that I tip away from my AEP of life is unfolding perfectly no matter what. And I do worry for a brief second, but I come right back. I'm like, wait, why am I worrying? Why am I getting involved in this drama? One of my neighbors, I threw on a sweatshirt to take the dog for a walk yesterday, morning, and it was really early, and I looked like hell, but I threw on this sweatshirt, and I'm walking, and this woman's coming towards me, and she's just shaking her head. I was like, and as she's passing me, I was like, you okay? And she used an expletive, and I looked down and realized I had my sweatshirt said Kamala, because Kevin had brought it back from one of his events, and I just had it in the closet. And I was like, wow, that's who we are. That kind of divide, that kind of anger, that kind of reaction to my choice, I would not be doing that to your choice, and nor should you. Am I worried about that sort of thing? On a certain level, I have thoughts about it, but what I really believe is that life is unfolding perfectly, and that we live in this persistent universe that will always, always emerge us in the right direction. I know that's hard. Believe me, I do know that's hard. And I know maybe it even sounds like, oh, sure, that's easy for you to say. You teach this stuff. It's not easy for me to say. Ernest Holmes said the laws of the universe are to be trusted, but we must come to understand them before we can use them. We've got this philosophy to use in times like these. We have these laws of the universe that the law will always unfold perfectly. We believe that. We trust that. We know that. And yet we fall off of that as soon as something like this shows up. So I'm here to give you the good news. You can stop worrying. You can stop fretting. You can go back to sleep at night. You can trust and know that your families are safe. Everyone will be okay in the face of whatever turns out at the end of this. And as I'm saying all this, I'm looking at faces, and here's my subtext is, none of them believe you. How many of you believe me? Great. It is simple, and it's the truth. It's the spiritual truth. Are we going to live our spiritual truths, or are we going to get caught up in this? Oh, God, I still want to say it, but I really do care. I really do care about what I say on the stage. Are we gonna follow the laws of our own philosophy, or are we gonna buy into race consciousness of this country? Norman Vincent Peale said, "It's always too early to quit." So I'd like to suggest at this point, we stop quitting. We stop throwing in the towel. Every time you find yourself anxious, you're quitting. You're buying into that stuff out there. And what we really need in this country, more than any one specific president, is a population of people who love only. Because that's what's going to change all of this. Not the divisiveness, not the... Yeah, really, we should all... So it's time to get back to our principles, isn't it? And you know, what's our principle? We live in a... Some of you are like, California. We live in a spiritual universe. One more time. We live in a... Spiritual universe. Yes, we don't live in a human universe. Humans only inhabit the universe as pure spirit, which most of us aren't getting yet. But we live in a spiritual universe, meaning the universe is working itself out perfectly at all times, no matter what. And we are spiritual beings of creative energy. That's who you are. That's who I am. I am creative energy and spiritual creative energy constantly moving forward. Yes? Yes. So that's who you are. We are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe. And we are always, always, always emerging. Yes. At all times. Yes. Guess what? You want some really good news? You don't have to emerge it. It's not up to you. You don't have to emerge it. The only thing you have to emerge is your own personal life. So yeah, you have choice. You have volition. I loved Barack Obama the other day at some rally. Everybody started booing about something. And he went, "Don't boo. Vote. Stop complaining. Stop being so worried. Just do the only thing you can do." You do get that, right? It's the only thing you can do is vote. Whichever side of the divide you're on. And so sad it's a divide. But that's okay. If we're going to go with this, then the divide is absolutely necessary at this moment for some strange reason, for the evolution of this country. We've had this divide before a number of times, and it's handled certain things that have come back again. And now we're in a divide again. But I think there's going to come a day when these smart cars that drive us around start to help us understand how fabulous we are. That we're shocked by it, and yet we're like, wait a minute, there's even more. I have more. I'm bigger than that. Maybe, next time Scott picks me up, he's going to hand me something and say, just hold on to this, we're flying there. And I'll probably be like, I'm not flying. What if a plane hits me? But, you know, it'll just be, just put this on and go. Or maybe, there's going to come a day where Scott doesn't even come to me, but he's at his house and he calls me mentally and says, let's just be there. Okay, and we're there. How's that sound? And I don't have to plug anything in or put any gas in anything. I just show up. It's like, I Dream of Jeannie knew it all. And why not? That's where we're going, folks. But you know what's going to trip us up? When we don't recognize it, when we don't see it, when we don't trust it, when we don't live this particular philosophy, that life is unfolding perfectly, it is emerging forward no matter what. You do your part, the universe is always doing its part. Namaste. Okay.